Yeah, no, I mean it though. Sometimes he really does seem kind of like he's envious of my horns. Yeah. I mean, I even tease him sometimes, like, oh yeah, you sure got a lot of headphones. Too bad none of them have horns.
Yep. Yep. These are real. These are actually real. Headphone highlights. Hello, I'm Master Marslander, and these are the Blasphemy. And yeah, we're gonna just dive into this. We're going into this. No notes, nothing. I'm not gonna look at anything. I'm just gonna go. I don't know, free ball it here, and we're gonna talk about the Pud Headphones Blasphemy, an absolutely insane headphone. Oh my gosh. We did an unboxing of this thing, and if you haven't already seen that unboxing video, here it is up wherever here. Go watch that because this was an incredible unboxing. It was crazy super fun, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk about it. So, Pud headphones, if you're not familiar with Pud, you need to be. This is Pud. Pud is a madman, but also a bit of a genius of a madman. He is kind of the, I don't know, Dr. Doolittle of the headphone community, of the audiophile community. He creates the most ridiculous, wild, crazy, bizarre, amazing headphones. They're wild. They're absolutely wild. But not only do they look just incredible, right? They look bizarre and amazing. But what's particularly amazing about them is that Pud knows exactly what he's doing. The guy is extremely knowledgeable of like the engineering and science behind acoustics with headphones and with speakers. And all of his headphones, all of them, don't just look the way they do just to look that way. They have purpose behind it. There's a reason. There's always a reason that his headphone is designed a specific way. And the Blasphemy here is no different. These horns look amazing, yes, but they also happen to be transmission lines. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but yeah, it's an actual acoustic functional feature of the headphone. It's not just to look cool, it does something for the sound. And that's how he is with all of his headphones. All of his headphones look ridiculous and amazing, but also there's a reason for it. There's always a reason for it. The guy's a madman, but he's a genius. And I am thrilled to be able to have the Blasphemy here because these are really, really freaking special. This is Pud's first ever headphone he has sold. He started a website where he's going to be selling headphones on occasion, and they're always going to be very limited drops. They might even all be one-offs. I'm not entirely sure. This one was a one-off, at least at the time when it was available. He only had one available, and I happen to be the lucky son of a gun who picked it up. So I am honored to say I am Pud's first customer for his first ever available for purchase headphone. I get to be that guy, and that's amazing. Amazing. So what exactly is a transmission line? What do these horns do besides, summon unlimited power from the underworld? Well, a transmission line is something that you usually hear about with speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a really quick, very, very basic rundown of transmission lines and how this all comes together. But a driver of a speaker, the actual speaker driver, obviously it goes back and forth and produces sound that way. And that's how you get sound coming out the front of your speaker. Well, what also happens when that driver is moving, is also producing sound behind the driver. That's called backwave. And when you think of a speaker box, you have the speaker that is projecting sound out towards you, the listener, and then the sound that's being produced from behind the driver is getting trapped inside of the speaker box. So this backwave, the sound that comes from behind the speaker, this is what is kind of a problem that we're always trying to find a solution for when it comes to the acoustic performance of a driver. So when it comes to speakers, there's kind of generally three rules of thought when it comes to building a speaker. You have the fully enclosed cabinet, which is like it says, a completely closed off box. Then you also have the bass port box, which is basically the same thing, but there is a bass port somewhere on the speaker to allow bass to flow through. And then you have the transmission line designed speaker box, which is more of a pathway to allow that back wave to travel. The problem with a fully enclosed box, a fully enclosed cabinet, is that the back wave, the sound coming out from behind that speaker, is kind of allowed to just go wherever the hell it wants within that box. It doesn't have anywhere to go, so it just kind of bounces around freely inside the box. And the kind of solution to how to deal with that is to fill that box with a whole bunch of acoustic material, acoustic dampening material, foam, whatever, to try and break apart that sound, break apart that back wave, and try to dissipate it and eliminate it. But it's never perfect, ever. And with a fully enclosed cabinet, you're going to very commonly encounter some acoustic behaviors you don't want, particularly stuff like reflections, because again, it's just bouncing around in there. And this is going to result in things you just don't want. You're going to have weird kind of behaviors coming out of your speaker that's going to affect the sound performance. Enter the bass port design. The bass port has an actual opening for that sound to potentially kind of escape the speaker box. This is a very common design. If you look at the speakers you own, there's a very good possibility you have a bass port speaker where it's just a hole, generally in like the back of the speaker, and that hole kind of lets some of that back wave escape. But it's, again, not perfect. It's still an enclosed box minus this one little hole, and that sound is still kind of just bouncing around freely, and eventually, certain frequencies will tend to kind of escape off that bass port. That's when you put your hand behind a bass port while a speaker is running, you'll feel chuffing. And that is those frequencies coming out through the bass port. They're generally lower frequencies, hence the name bass port. So one, you are letting some of those frequencies get out of the cabinet, so they're not bouncing around, causing a whole bunch of reflections. But also, because of the way that you are letting those lower frequencies escape the box, escape the cabinet, bass port speakers often give you more bass. You get actual bass production coming from that bass port. Just helps it have a much deeper, more impactful sound. We take that a step further to the transmission line speaker. These are much less common and often much more expensive because there's a lot more design work involved with a transmission line speaker. What the transmission line is intended to do is to actually, in some ways, take control of that back wave and be able to direct it the way you want it to. Rather than letting the back wave just bounce around inside of a box, there's an actual channel, a pathway that back wave has to go through and travel through. And as it travels through, throughout just the distance of which it has to travel will affect how that back wave responds, but also as it's traveling, you were able to do all sorts of acoustic dampening to help kind of tune how you want that back wave to behave. Maybe you want to eliminate the back wave entirely, just have it travel far enough and filter far enough until it's gone, it disappears, and the treble, you don't have to worry about it. Or you can choose where you want that back wave to go and tune it along the way, and then actually utilize that back wave in a method that is actually beneficial to the sound of the speaker. This is why some back wave speakers have a port in the front. So that back wave goes down that path and then escapes out the front again, but precisely tuned and utilized to help benefit the actual output of the speaker. So the general concept of the transmission line is to try to utilize and direct that back wave to be a benefit in some way to the output of your sound through your speaker, or in this case, through your headphone. Now, when it comes to headphones, the speakers in headphones, the drivers in headphones are generally quite a bit smaller than you get out of a loudspeaker. Loudspeaker drivers are much, much larger. So having a transmission line makes a lot more sense for a speaker. Headphones are much, much smaller, so it's not something you really see. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the only only fully sized over-ear headphone that I know of that uses a transmission line. This is bizarre and insanely cool. So what this is doing, what these horns are doing, it's having the back wave of the driver inside the chassis here. Yeah, it's blowing out sound out the ear cups here, but the sound that's being produced behind the driver is getting channeled through these horns until it's just kind of gone. It's just gone, filtered away. And the results of that are crazy. I'm going to go ahead and try and give you a closer look at these, but they don't even fit on screen. Wow, look at them. They're so freaking cool. They're so flippin' cool. But okay, let's get a closer look here about this build and how they're put together. And all these other little details about the headphone that obviously the horns are the coolest part, but there's other aspects about the build that are still super flippin' cool that you might not notice right out of the gate. Starting with these horns, which are obviously the most predominant feature of the headphone, they're 3D printed and they actually feel really, really good. The kind of 3D print quality, the 3D resolution of these horns is pretty freaking solid. It does have a couple little like quirky bits, like right up here is a little bit of 3D printed residue maybe, but it's very, very minimal. They're remarkably clean in their 3D print production. And they feel nice and smooth. They have a little bit of texture to them, that 3D texture, but otherwise the resolution on these is really, really nice. If we take a look at how the horns are being connected to the shells here for the drivers, look at that. I think this looks super freaking rad. I think that the way that these are being connected to the driver shells looks rad as hell. It's super industrial with these really cool, bright green hex screws here. Oh, they're so flippin' cool looking. And again, just really, really industrial. I think it works great for the theming of the headphone. You'll notice that, yeah, the actual connecting portion for your cable is on the horn rather than on the shell, the actual chassis for the driver. It's on the horn, which is interesting, very interesting, but it works out just fine. And these are just simple 3.5mm ports here. So you can use whatever 3.5mm dual entry cable you have. Very much appreciate that. So in terms of your swivel, you have all the swivel. I mean, more than you'll ever need. So much so they could actually fold down flat like that, which I didn't even know it can do until right now. That's really cool. But yeah, tons and tons of swivel. In terms of tilt, also tons. I mean, just look at this articulation. There are well established headphone brands that don't do this much articulation in the headband. He knows what he's doing, man. Pud just knows what he's doing. This is all the articulation you would ever need for a headphone. Now, you do notice that the pads are naturally resting right up against themselves, which might make you think that there's a lot of clamp force happening here. And obviously, the way that these yoke systems are attached to the horns rather than the chassis for the drivers, there is a lot more resistance, you would think, for them to kind of stretch out to the size of your head. But it's actually not nearly as much clamp force as you might think. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about like the overall comfort and fit of the headphone. But because the way that these yokes are out here and the way that they very easily kind of bend to allow for that headband to stretch out, really help reduce the clamp force. So clamp force is not nearly as big of an issue as you might think. For the height adjustment, we have a clicking system, which is super clicky, very, very satisfying. You actually can feel it underneath the padding right here on the headband. Feel those metal bars go in and out, and it does click really, really nicely. And then the swivel mechanic right here is also pretty nice. It has a very tight sort of tolerance, and it just looks really clean, and it performs very, very well. The headband itself is pretty dang soft. The underside of it, the whole headband is wrapped in like protein leather. The underside of it has some comfort padding underneath, which is soft and pretty pliable, pretty plush. And again, we'll talk more about how well that does when it gets to fit and comfort of the headphone. And then the pads. The pads are these huge monster. Maybe they might be even, I don't know, I think they might be Taconi pads, but they're ridiculously soft. Like they are really, really plushy. Let me turn these around so you can really get a look at them. There you go. They're super soft. I assume they're also a protein leather, but man, they give so easily, and the foam, it's not memory foam, but it's very light, dense foam. So it just kind of melts around your fingers and melts around your ears and the side of your head. These pads are really freaking great. And yeah, they're perforated all around the outside, perforated on the face, and perforated on the inside. So full perforation of these giant pads. Look at the size of the ear volume in here. Yeah, they're great. These pads are so good, dude. And of course, everything is all black for this all black gothic metal kind of design. And dude, I love it. So with my order of the Blasphemy, Pud actually also included some really, really cool accessories. Starting with the cable, this is a nice cable. Like it's so much nicer than I thought I would be getting from this headphone. It's kind of very reminiscent of IEM cables. It has this pretty tight, very like almost jewelry like weave to it. And then the connectors here's the Y splitter. It's like these metal pieces, but with this the very center of it right here having this carbon fiber texture to it. Very, very cool. And then the connectors here at the actual connecting ends, the terminations here, the 3.5 millimeter, and they are metal connectors. Solid, clean, simple, but very, very high quality. They are color coded for left and right, so it's easy to know. And yeah, we go from this, looks like a 4 weave per split down to your Y splitter, and then into this like really, really nice weave on the main portion of the cable here. I'll wind this up so you can get a better look at it. Like, look at this. This is a super pretty cable. Yeah, it's really nice. It's very firm. Like I'm not worried about it like getting all tangled up and having crazy memory retention. It's a very stiff, firm cable that's going to maybe not drape like water or like silk, but it's going to always kind of have a straight edge. It's never going to kink up on you, which I really appreciate. Then down here at the amplifier end, we have a 1/4 inch adapter, which just comes off to reveal a 3.5 millimeter. Again, with that kind of carbon fiber look here at the connector as well. So good cable, man. It's a good length. It looks nice. And yeah, it's a much nicer quality cable than I was expecting. And then the real kind of big surprise was this. What the heck is this? This is a headphone stand for the Blasphemy. Like, how freaking cool. I had no idea he was going to include a freaking stand as well. Look at that. Look at that. Like, okay, yeah, you can see the camera, whatever. This is super cool. And you notice how kind of reflective the front face of this thing is. I think that this is very, very purposeful. And this is another cool little feature. I'm pretty sure the reason why he made this front of the headphone stand so reflective is so that when it's sitting on a shelf, it looks like your face is in between the headphone in the reflection. Freaking cool. Very, very cool. Very smart. And it's a very simple kind of design for a headphone stand, but you notice it has the same bright green screws that are used on the headphones. So everything matches beautifully. It has the same black being used. I believe it is also 3D printed, probably with the same polymer. And yeah, it looks cool. And on the back here is this great little blurb he made for the headphones. I'll go ahead and just hold this here and you can read it for yourself. Pause the video if you want to. But yeah, how freaking cool to include a headphone stand with his one-off Blasphemy headphones by some random dude who happens to just be his first customer. Freaking cool. I love this package. It's just so fun, man. And again, just so much more than I was expecting to get in this, in this package. It's so much better than I ever thought it would be. So how does it feel to wear the Blasphemy? Well, besides, like I said, the unlimited intoxicating power of the Underworld, this feels really good. These feel really, really good on the head, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that these are as comfortable as they are. Probably the first thing that you were thinking of, and certainly the most common first question I get about these headphones when I'm showing them to anybody is, ooh, those look really heavy. Are they really heavy? They look crazy heavy to have these horns on your head going crazy. And you know what? They don't weigh nearly as much as you might expect. I put these on my little kitchen scale here, and the total weight of this headphone is about 440 grams. Now, while that might be a little heavy for a headphone in general, most headphones that we've had here on the channel, I think, have been between 400 grams, some going into 450s. That is remarkably light for what we're looking at here, folks. Look at this freaking thing. Only 540 grams. And I gotta tell you, the way that weight is being distributed here is, I don't know if Pud intended this, but his weight distribution of this headphone is insanely good. Insanely good. I don't have hardly any discomfort at the top of my head here, and the pads are extremely soft and plushy, so they fit to my side of my head and around my ears, and just about the most perfect way they can be. And then the clamp force, even with these giant horns putting this weight down, the clamp force is remarkably manageable, like really easy to deal with. I am able to sit down and listen to these headphones for hours. I've done it. Hours without fatigue. with all this. Like, it's wild, man. It is insane that he was able to accomplish the weight distribution of this headphone the way that he has. Remarkable. The biggest hurdle, the biggest kind of obstacle to wearing this headphone has nothing to do with the weight. It has everything to do with just like getting around the house. Like making sure I'm not bumping into everything, bumping into my wife, bumping into my dogs. It's remarkable. It's a remarkably comfortable headphone. And to really quick talk about the cable here, the cable weighs basically nothing, and it doesn't really add any weight to the headphone. And then when we're talking about microphonics on the cable, it's really negligible, really negligible. I don't hear the cable rubbing against my shirt. I more so just kind of hear it rattling a little bit in the connecting ends, but otherwise it's a complete non-issue, especially if I'm sitting down listening. The cable doesn't bother me one bit. So usually we would bring out the comfort cloud scale. How many clouds of comfort does this headphone get? But I don't think clouds are very appropriate for this headphone. We gotta think of a different type of scale system. Maybe something like, how many boiling pots of flaming oil of comfort? How many boiling pots of comfort oil do we give the Blasphemy? I'm going to say 7.5 boiling pots of comfort oil for the Pud headphone Blasphemy. Incredibly comfortable headphone, especially considering what we're dealing with here. The result of these transmission line horns on this headphone, the way that Pud has tuned these and designed these, oh my god, insane amounts of bass. Wild bass production out of these headphones. More so than I have heard from most headphones. In fact, the only other headphone I can really think of that can even compete when it comes to the insanity of the bass representation of this headphone is the Z Reviews Harmonic Dyne Eris. An insanely crazy, bassy, and super fun headphone. There's a video for it up there if you want to take a look. I recommend that you do because these are amazing. And that's what they are. They are the bass violence necessary for change, after all. And man, they're a joy. And they are, again, the only other headphone that I own and that I think I have heard to date that can even come close to the bass representation of the Blasphemy here. And this bass isn't just crazy and obnoxious. It is actually remarkably clean. It is remarkably well tuned, very well balanced. It just happens to hit extremely low into the sub bass range. It is so deep. Oh, it's like the depth of it is just amazing. It doesn't have quite as much mid bass impact as you get out of the Eris. The Eris are again just kind of gratuitous with their mid bass, but the bass is just ridiculous. Bass is ridiculous, and the mid bass on these, I would say, is maybe even a little bit cleaner than they are on the Eris. A bit more natural, a bit more balanced, but still very punchy, growly, impactful, intense. Tons and tons of depth. They are so incredibly bassy. It's like THX theater kind of bass. It is remarkable, genuinely remarkable. And I can't get over how fun these are. How fun. I mean, yeah, how can they not be fun? Look at them, right? I'm having fun just wearing them. But the sound performance out of these has no business being as just wildly fun and engaging as it is. Has no business being this good. This headphone has no business being this good. But you know, as much as the bass is like the highlight of this headphone, it's not the only thing it can do. It is remarkably well tuned. It is very, very natural, like in the mid-range and in the high mids. Vocals are very, very clean and clear and very forward. It's very, I don't know, it's just remarkably well balanced. It has this insane amount of bass. Insane, just like in your chest kind of bass, but everything else still has this very natural, well balanced to it. It's so well balanced. It sounds remarkably good. And sure, it probably has a little bit of a roll off the top end, but it's not nearly enough that I feel like I'm missing anything. I don't feel like I'm missing any information. I'm getting everything I want to hear. But what I really want to hear from a headphone like this is, of course, that monstrous, insane bass. And my God, does it deliver. It really, God, it is some of the most visceral feeling, resonating chest, like bouncing, projecting bass I've heard in a headphone. It is insanely fun. Oh my God. The other huge benefit that you were getting with the Blasphemy, with these horns, with these transmission lines, besides that crazy, amazing speaker-like bass, is humongous soundstage. This is a fully closed headphone. I mean, yeah, there's nothing. You got a little port right here, but otherwise there's really nothing opening the driver to the world. But the way that it channels that back wave, man, the soundstage is humongous. It is gigantic. Everything in this headphone sounds so huge. Having this just massive amount of soundstage, coupled with this incredible speaker level bass performance, oh my god, it is just such an immersively explosive listening experience. They are so flippin' fun to listen to, and one of the most incredible gaming headphones. Oh my god. I've been playing some of the Oblivion remaster with these things, and it has just been a blast, an absolute blast. And I'm really entering the Daedric world when I'm wearing the Blasphemy. They're just such a joy. It's ridiculous. This ridiculous headphone is ridiculously fun. What else can I say? And sure, I could try to go a bit more into like the nuances of it, but this isn't so much a review of this headphone as is an actual highlight. It's a headphone highlight. This is a highlight of this headphone because, again, this is, as far as I understand it, kind of a one-off. If you're going to go to, I have Pud's website linked in the description. I'll have it up here as well. You can go and check out his website where he showcases all this and where he could potentially have a headphone available for sale. But like I said, I don't know if he intends to just have a bunch of one-offs and he'll drop a headphone. And if you're the lucky one to be there at the time, you get to own a one-of-a-kind headphone. Maybe that's what he's going for. And if he is, I think that's kind of cool because, yeah, this is a one-of-a-kind headphone. I mean, come on. But also, if Pud decides he wants to try and do more kind of mass production of these things, of not just these headphones, but any of his headphones, the best way that you're going to have to actually try a Pud headphone is go to an audio show, particularly one in California. If you go to something like Can Jam SoCal, there's a pretty good chance Pud will be there. And if Pud is there, you can almost damn well guarantee he's going to have one of his crazy headphones there, if not several, to just let people try out. And I highly encourage you to do so if you can, because his headphones are insane. They're insane to look at, they're insane to put on, and they sound insane. They're remarkably fun. In a world now where, like everything else, you look at like how phones are made, how computers are made, how pretty much any modern device is made. Everything's about this like simple, crazy minimalist and taking away all the kind of funness of everything. Everything just looks so sterile in design. Here's Pud going at the headphone world, which again is kind of approaching this sterile sort of design methodology. And he's like, nah, man, I'm going to make headphones that are super crazy fun. He's going to challenge the concept of what a headphone could and should look like, how it could and should be designed. And I commend him for that, man. I love this kind of shit. I love how ridiculous these things are. Oh my gosh, I can't express to you how refreshing it is. So I think it's no surprise that I love the Blasphemy. It is a remarkable headphone. Absolutely a silly, ridiculous headphone. Dumb even, but I love how dumb it is. And it is just so much fun to listen to. My gosh. So now let's go ahead and ask the question, do the Pud headphones Blasphemy belong on the headphone wall? Yes, of course they do. Are you kidding me? How could I not put this on the headphone wall? Oh my god. Yeah, 100%. 100%. In fact, I know exactly where they're going. Look at that. Look at that. That's incredible. That's amazing. Oh my god. Yeah, no. They're going up there for sure. They have to. Look at that. Incredible. I've also noticed, this was unintentional, but this is how it is. It is the only headphone besides the Klipsch HP3 that has its own dedicated shelf. But now that the Blasphemy are on the headphone wall, we have to take something off the wall. That's how this works. Anything that goes on the wall has to replace something that's already there. So what is the Blasphemy replacing? It took a little bit of thought. So I've decided that the Blasphemy because of their insane design and their insane bass performance, are going to replace the Ultrasone Pulse signatures. Now, these have been on the wall not so much because of how I enjoy their sound performance. The sound of these things is a little strange, but it's been the design of these. The whole, what do you call it? What did they call it? Yeah, the S-Logic feature of these headphones was unique to them. That's something that's unique to the Ultrasone lineup, is this S-Logic sound system that they do for the drivers. That's why this headphone was on the wall, primarily, for that kind of unique design. But I think when it comes to unique design, you can't really compete with the Blasphemy. So thank you very much, Ultrasone, for your years of hard work, and we appreciate you, but it's time for you to be retired with honor and dignity. So thank you very much to the Pulse signature. We will miss you. In any case, that's about it. I hope that you enjoyed this. I will see you again soon.